Financial Secretary Paul Chan says the government's budget deficit could be less than $100 billion. Arrests are made in connection with fake tickets for superstar Andy Lau's concerts. Good evening, and thank you for joining us. Financial Secretary Paul Chan attended a consultation forum on the government's next budget address. He revealed the government's latest estimate of fiscal deficits will be revised downward to less than $100 billion, and the administration will continue to control recurrent expenses. February 26, the day the government's budget for the next fiscal year will be unveiled. To tap public views, Financial Secretary Paul Chan attended a forum that invited around 130 participants from different sectors. The previous budget anticipated a government deficit of $48 billion. That estimate later went up to the tune of around $100 billion in the red. Now the Financial Secretary said the latest estimate may see a slight revision. Financial Secretary Paul Chan said, with more than 2 months left in fiscal year 2024 to 25, the expected deficit will be lower than $100 billion. He said driving down the deficit will be front and center in the new budget proposal. The administration now aims at balancing the books in around 3 to 4 years. They will dedicate resources to buoying the economy while trimming expenses. Chan said topping their agenda is to rein in the rise of recurrent expenditures. Second is to seek clarity in their priority, especially in prioritizing resource allocation in major development projects such as the Northern Metropolis. He said the government will try to increase income from those who can pay more while trying to minimize the impact on the public. Chan added that decreases in income are mostly cyclical, such as profits tax, land-related stamp duties, and land sales income. That means such income streams will gradually rise after the trough in economic cycles. When asked if profits tax can be raised, Chan says such policies must take into account how Hong Kong is a very small and a fully open economy, and the city is competing with other regions for business, investment, and enterprises. On whether there will be a cut in welfare expenditures, especially the $2 transport subsidy scheme, the finance chief said labor and welfare officials are studying various opinions towards the matter. Financial Secretary Paul Chan also said the city's economy in 2024 saw steady growth, but admitted it was not as strong as expected. Mimo Sengai reports.
Hong Kong's economic growth in 2024 is expected to be 2.5%, which is at the lower end of the government's forecast range and was set out at the start of the financial year. Financial Secretary Paul Chan says the city's economy grew steadily last year, but growth was slower and weaker than anticipated because of geopolitical factors and high interest rates. As of October last year, the government's land sale revenue was $3.7 billion, just 10% of the original forecast. At the consultation forum, residents suggested Chan should re-implement the application mechanism for land sale and offer a rebate of 5% to land developers as an incentive. Chan rejected the two suggestions. Meanwhile, another resident said the government could build a water activity center and holiday resort in the city to attract high-spending tourists. Chan said the government is studying ways to attract high-spending consumers to the city. Numbers 9, TVB News.
Infectious disease expert Professor Ivan Hung said there has been a spike in influenza cases in Hong Kong after citizens returned from vacations abroad. He anticipates more flu cases at schools. The onslaught of the flu season in Hong Kong is likely on the way. That's according to the Center for Health Protection, which is expecting the caseload to reach the World Health Organization's baseline for the level of influenza activities. Dr. Ivan Hung, Chair Professor of Medicine and Head of Infectious Diseases at the University of Hong Kong, said many citizens who returned to Hong Kong after traveling to Japan have shown influenza symptoms. Speaking on a radio program, Professor Hung expects the flu caseloads to peak around the Lunar New Year. He noted many young children may not have immunity to the virus because they have not been exposed to influenza over the past few years and have not been vaccinated. And often unvaccinated patients develop much more severe symptoms.
The prediction is that there may be an outbreak among kindergarten and also in primary school. For those who are just coming back from overseas, then of course, if they have symptoms of influenza or flu, then they should be seeing doctors. They should do a rapid test and they could see a doctor and get treatment.
He anticipates the winter flu peak season will not last as long as the flu season last summer. Still, Dr. Hong said there may be a so-called twin peak situation. This as the current outbreak of the H1 influenza A virus accounts for 90% of the cases. But Hong believes an H3 flu outbreak will follow soon after the H1 influenza A virus situation eases, probably after the Lunar New Year holidays. With that, he calls on the public not to overlook the severity of influenza, especially the elderly, chronically ill, and children.
Most important of all is still getting the influenza vaccine. There's still enough time to get the vaccine before the Chinese New Year.
He said apart from being inoculated, wearing a mask would help as a precautionary measure. Police arrested 5 men after they were suspected of selling fake concert tickets for superstar singer Andy Lau. The cases involved losses totaling $80,000. Memo Sangai reports.
Since December 17th, police had received more than 20 reports related to Andy Lau's concert tickets. Some victims said they bought the tickets from unofficial websites with prices ranging between $2,000 and $5,000, more expensive than the original costs. Scammers would ask buyers to meet at certain locations to give them the tickets, with the latter paying them by cash or via online transactions. The victims found out they had been scammed when they tried to enter the Coliseum but were denied entry. The police said the fabricated tickets had a strong resemblance to the real ones, making it difficult for individuals to discern. The force said the 5 local suspects, aged between 18 and 45, were arrested for obtaining property by deception. Authorities said they would continue to investigate the case and may make further arrests if necessary. Andy Lau's concerts will be held until the 10th.
3,500 总共.
This fan from the mainland said she paid 3,500 yuan for the tickets. She hoped the tickets were authentic. Numbers 9, TVB News.
Donald Trump is not likely to face jail when he is sentenced over the hush money case next week. A judge denied Trump's bid to dismiss the case, but gave hints that Trump will not face punishment. David Garrett reports.
US President-elect Donald Trump was convicted on low-level felony charges in May. He was found guilty of falsifying business records to cover up a payment of $130,000 to Stormy Daniels. It was to silence her during his 2016 election campaign. She later released a book called Full Disclosure. The charges related to attempts to hide reimbursements to his ex-lawyer Michael Cohen, who had paid the adult film star to remain quiet about an alleged sexual encounter with Trump. New York Justice Juan Merchan will sentence Trump on January 10th, 10 days ahead of his inauguration. Merchan denied the incoming leader's bid to dismiss the case on presidential immunity grounds. But Merchan signalled he is not going to send Trump to jail. He is inclined not to sentence Trump to any punishment, suggesting no jail, fine or probation. Time behind bars was always considered unlikely for a first-time offender. Trump will likely receive an unconditional discharge. He can appear on Friday in person or virtually. Trump has denied wrongdoing, calling the case a witch hunt and an illegitimate political attack. His spokesperson says there shouldn't even be a sentencing. Trump will be the first ever US president to be sworn in with a criminal record. David Garrett, TVB News.
And still ahead, Mike Johnson narrowly wins enough votes to become US House Speaker thanks to Donald Trump. U.S. Department of Justice disagrees with Donald Trump over TikTok ban. And free bone screening for the elderly to raise awareness of osteoporosis. Welcome back. In the U.S., Republican Mike Johnson narrowly won re-election as House Speaker on a first ballot. It was reportedly support from President-elect Donald Trump that swayed 2 Republicans who initially did not vote for Johnson. NASB Kareem has more.
Voting is tense in Congress for the role of House Speaker.
The roll now will be called.
Louisiana's Mike Johnson trying desperately to retain his job in one of the most powerful positions in the United States.
Norman. Jordan.
South Carolina Republican Ralph Norman votes for Ohio's Jim Jordan.
Self. Donalds.
Texas Republican Keith Self votes for Florida's Byron Donalds. A worried-looking Johnson consults his allies. In the meantime, Norman and Self reportedly speak on the phone to President-elect Donald Trump, a Mike Johnson supporter. The clerk calls Norman and Self for a second time.
Mr. Norman Johnson.
One vote flipped to Johnson. Then dramatically, Self also flips.
Mr. Self is recorded as Donalds. Mr. Self Johnson.
Handshakes all around for relieved Mike Johnson. He reached the 218 majority typically needed to retain his House Speaker role to the 215 garnered by Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries. Still, it was a razor-thin victory for the post that saw his predecessor Kevin McCarthy being ousted in October 2023. It brought an end to a tense first day of the new Congress, which traditionally celebrates the ceremonial swearing-in of recently elected members. Johnson was then sworn in.
Do you solemnly swear that you will support and defend the Constitution of the United States?
I do.
Congratulations.
Trump congratulated Johnson on social media, with the speaker often describing himself as a quarterback who executes the political plays of his coach, the president-elect. And one of his first tasks is to help the coach cut back on government.
And as heirs to the American Revolution and the descendants of patriots who defied tyranny, in the coming months, we are going to pass legislation to roll back the totalitarian fourth branch of government known as the administrative state. We're going to drastically cut back the size and scope of government. We're going to return the power back to the people. And in coordination with President Trump and his administration, we are going to create a leaner, faster, and more efficient federal workforce. We need to do that.
Johnson's hold on the Speaker's job, although slim, strengthens Republicans with the GOP in control of the House and Senate ahead of Trump's inauguration on January 20, when he has vowed immediate action on issues such as mass deportation of illegal immigrants. Nazri Karim, TVB News.
Thank you, Leader Jeffries.
The U.S. Department of Justice has asked the Supreme Court to reject President-elect Donald Trump's request to delay enforcement of the ban or sale law for TikTok. It came ahead of oral arguments on the law that's set to take place at the Supreme Court on January 10th. Danny Zhou tells us more.
The U.S. Department of Justice on Friday urged justices to uphold the law, despite Donald Trump's argument that his incoming administration would seek to negotiate a political solution to the issue. The department said in its filing that Trump's request could only be granted if ByteDance, TikTok's Chinese parent company, had established it was likely to succeed on the merits. But the company had not done so. The law, passed in April 2024, forces ByteDance to divest its holdings from TikTok's U.S. assets, or it will face an effective ban from January the 19th. TikTok has around 170 million American users. The Biden administration has accused the popular social media platform of posing so-called national security risks over fears that China could access user data and spread propaganda. TikTok has firmly denied those claims. Beijing has repeatedly underscored that there is no public evidence to date that TikTok has threatened U.S. national security, and that the TikTok ban puts fair competition in peril. Danny Zhou, TVB News.
In order to raise public awareness of osteoporosis, a large-scale bone density screening event was held in Kwai Chung today, offering free screenings for 400 individuals aged 50 and above. And it has more.
The screening event provided free ultrasound bone density tests and held seminars to raise public awareness of osteoporosis, a condition characterized by low bone mass. Executive Council member and former Secretary for Food and Health, Dr. Ko-Wing Man, attended the event and talked about the importance of osteoporosis examinations.
Osteoporosis is affecting a very significant section of our community. Osteoporosis is a silent disease. That is why it is very important that apart from maintaining healthy lifestyle, we also have to do regular checkups.
Ko said individuals do not need to go for these examinations very frequently, as bone density does not change rapidly.
My own recommendation is that you only need to do it, say, every 2 years.
Residents who joined the event were delighted to receive free bone density examinations. This woman said she was very happy that the tests were provided to her free of charge because she believes that bone health is very important. This man said he was picked to come today by a social service organization and that he felt fortunate to have his bones examined.
Osteoporosis is mainly due to the aging effect and also the decrease in sex hormone. You have to eat enough calcium per day.
Kwok said weight-bearing activities such as walking, performing household chores, and balancing on one leg are effective in preventing osteoporosis. He encourages individuals to enhance their awareness of bone health and engage in measures to safeguard against this condition. And TVB News.
And that's the news. Happy Saturday, and thank you for watching.